LogRhythm's Netmon Freemium delivers real-time network visibility to quickly identify emerging threats in your IT environment. Netmon Freemium is a free commercial-grade network forensics and traffic analytics solution. You can use Netmon Freemium's powerful capabilities to search against all observed network traffic, identify abnormal traffic patterns and application usage, and quickly analyze full packet captures. Take the first step towards real-time network visibility. Visit logRhythm.com/freemium to learn more and download it today. Make sure your team is prepared to fight off the latest cybersecurity threat. IT Pro TV is the resource to keep you and your IT team skills up to date. You can stream IT Pro TV's courses live and on demand worldwide, so there's no need to send staff to off-site training. Their team solution provides access to a supervisor portal for full control over your team's training schedule and group analytics. Go to itpro.tv/Security Weekly and use the code SW30 to try it free for 7 days and receive 30% off your monthly membership for the lifetime of your active subscription. To learn more about IT Pro TV's team solution, sign up for a free demo of their supervisor portal. NetSparker, the developers of desktop and cloud-based web application security scanners that enable you to automatically identify vulnerabilities in your web applications and web services. NetSparker scanners employ a unique and dead-accurate vulnerability scanning engine that automatically verifies vulnerabilities with their proof of concept. For more information, visit them on the web at netsparker.com or email at contact@netsparker.com. Welcome back, everyone, to Paul's Security Weekly. This is our technical segment. Really quick, itpro.tv. Make sure you go there. Check it out. Go to their website. Consume all of their training. Not all at once, because it's been proven to cause serious medical issues. You should do this in stages, slowly, maybe on the weekends. It's a great way to catch up in between your other training. Like my kind of recommendation, I don't know how others feel about this, but that SANS has its place when you want to get away. You want to immerse yourself in 6 days of training. Then, when you get back to the office and you're in between things and you want to catch up on something really quick, IT Pro TV comes in and saves the day and allows your business, your employer, to purchase a supervisor portal so that you can go get training. And wait, it gets better. If you've got other people on your team that are like, you told me about this new security thing or this new technology that I should do because it helps us be more secure and better in technology, you can say, hey, you can go to IT Pro TV too and get trained up on that particular technology. There's just so many benefits of itpro.tv. Go to itpro.tv/Security Weekly. Try it free for 7 days, and our discount code SW30 gets you 30% off the monthly membership for the lifetime of your active subscription. Cool. I'd like to now introduce a man who doesn't need an introduction, vulnerability shudder at his exploit writing skills, Mr. Mick Douglas.
Oh, drum roll.
What's going on, Mick? How are you? Mick he's been all over. He was a regular host here on Security Weekly for a while. He has worked for Black Hills Information Security, Trusted Sec. You now have your own firm, InfoSec Innovations. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
We like to say that you've graduated now and you have your own. You've moved on to the next level of having your own firm, Mick. You're still very involved with SANS, and you're teaching Sec 535 among other things, correct?
Sec 555.
555.
So it's actually for the tech segment, we're going to be diving into some of the class. So you get a free little sneak peek into some of the stuff that you can do with Sec 555.
What is Sec 555?
Sec 555, I'm glad you asked, is all about operationalizing and doing tactical analysis with a SIM. A lot of people have a SIM, but most companies, most people, if you ask about it, they say that they hate their SIM or that it's not giving them a good return on value. And so what we're doing with this class is we're doing a lot of research and development. We're sharing the latest and greatest in terms of what you can do. And we're basically taking a back-to-basics approach where you can take simple log files and twist them in interesting ways and tell some really complicated and interesting stories that give you visibility in huge networks. And even if you're not in a very large environment, you can still benefit from having this superior understanding of what's going on in your network.
Mick, I'm researching open source tools and its usage in the enterprise. How far can you get using open source tools to accomplish some of the tasks and goals in your sim versus buying a commercial product? I know that's probably a really loaded question that would take a really long time, but if you could distill it down.
Well, so the answer is honestly, how much time do you want to spend on it? Because there are some fantastic things out there. For instance, Black Hills InfoSec has done some fantastic work with using some of the sysinternals components and Sysmon to crack open what's going on an enterprise grade, and you can do that with the price point of diddly boo. That's the technical term for nothing. And there's all kinds of tools out there right now. Actually,
it's also my Apple root password as well.
Yeah. Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's Deadly Boo.
No, it's nothing.
Funny,
it's the representation of diddly boo, which is nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? I have that same password, so I'm in good crowd. But no, now's a really good time to be a geek and be playing around with open source technologies, because there's more and more tools out there. The maturation is getting really impressive, and one of the things that we were talking about in the SANS Sim Summit in Scottsdale, Arizona, which was brought to you by the letter S. We were talking about how much better some of the open source tools are now. If you think about like the digital forensics frameworks like Volatility and Google's Recall, they're actually superior to some of the commercial tools that are out there. And we're seeing a very similar thing taking place with within the SIM environments. Bro. For goodness sakes, like pound for pound, that's one of the best network analyzers.
Oh, see, I thought you were just referring to me like affectionately, like bro.
Yeah.
Oh, you're actually talking about the tool, bro.
Yeah, no, Larry, you my bro, much love. But no, we're talking about the network monitor. Oh,
bro, the
Well,
network
wait,
monitor.
Larry might be a tool.
oh,
Oh.
but Larry's our tool that we love dearly.
I'm just kidding, Larry.
My face of
Go
shock and awe.
ahead, go ahead, Mick. We're totally screwing.
So, Mick, we're not talking about like elk, like in a sense of the animal or hunting, and it's a game kind of animal. But what is an elk stack? For those listening that don't know what an elk stack is, if you could break it down for us before we dig into the...
Not that big set of antlers?
Yeah, well, so
that would be a stacked elk.
That could be one of the elk things, but no, actually, because this is a SANS thing, they wanted to have the slide deck. So hold on just a second. Your question on what elk is a group of technologies maintained by a group called Elastic, and elk is Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. And what Elasticsearch is, it's this basically like a big data store that you can throw your logs into that are indexed. And you can do some interesting queries and visualizations, and you do those queries and visualizations through a front end like Kibana. And then Logstash is the tool that actually gets the logs from your devices, whether they're servers, workstations, or network elements, like routers and switches, and puts them into Elasticsearch for you to do this magic playing around. And
okay, so an elk stack allows you to collect the logs, store the logs, and then analyze the logs all in one, all open source stack, correct?
Completely open source. And the other thing that's interesting is how large this can scale out. You can have multiple Elastic nodes that are all pointing, or that a single Kibana instance is interfacing with. So you can have a very large data set. And I'm not going to say the term big data more than that one time, but you can deal with large data sets. And the thing that's cool is it's, again, free. Now, there are paid, depending on the modules, you may need to get the professional version. But in Sec 555, we're showing you how to use Elk because it's free, and it's not necessarily that it's better than the commercial tools. What we're trying to do is expose how you can think and creatively use these logs that really, quite frankly, have been underutilized for decades.
Well, really just stuffed in a commercial sim and then not really able to get a lot of useful data out.
Oh, you mean my least favorite sim, the write-only sim, where the logs go to die?
Mm.
Yeah, that's not what we do in this class. So one of the things that always makes me sad is when people are saying that like logs are boring, and quite frankly, there's nothing worse than that. Logs should be awesome. And we actually have a really cool little demo that shows you what you can do with like network flow information, just DHCP logs. And because I'm here on Security Weekly, got to give much love to Nessus Tenable. And we'll show you how you can use these sorts of things to learn all sorts of information about your environment.
Sweet.
So,
Hey, Mick.
Go ahead.
Quick question. You mentioned the Elk Stack in terms of the community version, the free as in free beer version. Can you distinguish for me what the difference between the community version is versus the commercial stuff?
Well, there's quite a few differentiators. Some of them are in the modules that you get. So the commercial version offers integrations that aren't readily available with the community. For instance, if you want to do LDAP or Active Directory integration, you have to do the commercial version. The commercial version comes with a different support model. And if you're going to be using these sorts of like a technology like this for business, for serious, you probably want to have some form of support rather than just community support. That's some of the big differences.
So in that line, does the class that you're developing, the SANS class, does it sort of work people up towards that sort of threshold where they should maybe consider the commercial version, or is it completely focused on just the open source implementation stuff?
That's an awesome question. What I would say this class more is about doing is kind of taking the sim off the table. It's really not the sim, it's what you do with it. And so what we try to show you as much as possible is how to hot rod that sim, how to get the telemetry, the log sources that you actually need, how to filter so that you're not drinking from a fire hose. And then we also once you have the right logs, we teach you post-ingestion things called enrichment, where you can do analysis on the log attributes and do things like find out, is this a dynamic DNS that they're going to, or is it a known malicious site? And that way, when a SOC analyst or whoever's interacting with the SIM can quickly and easily run some additional checks that might be computationally expensive and you wouldn't want to do on every single log record. But if it's one of interest, you can, you or a script could auto fire that allows you to very easily see what's going on and really tell a more interesting story.
I gotcha. So what I'm hearing is you don't necessarily focus on, what those different aspects of the commercial versus, freeware version is, but more of what you can do with it and let people make that judgment call themselves as to whether they want to upgrade to that commercial version down the road.
Absolutely. The shame and sorrow of it really is that in my experience, there's plenty of commercial SIMs, enterprise-grade SIMs that are really quite lovely, and people are using maybe 10 to 15% of the capabilities. And so it's like, using this, jet fuel funny car that we've got right here, using that to go out and get groceries. Yeah, you can do it, but it's a real expensive tool for that. So what we want you to do is use these tools to their full capability and really make it so that the days of pen testers and attackers getting in, rifling through a network are coming to a close. Because one of the things that really makes me sad as a pen tester, whenever I do pen tests, is there's a lot of times I'm doing attacks and I'm like, really? You're not seeing this? Like, really? Because I'm not even being quiet. And I think we've all had that experience where, at a certain point, you're like starting to think like, hey, do I need to start rebooting machines? Like, what's it going to take? And one of the things that the students learned pretty early, we already had a nice discussion on this in day one. I'm TAing the class this week. One of the students was like, but there's all this artifacts. Like, how are we not seeing this? And like, it was really apparent, like all the people who were kind of grizzled sim veterans, and they just kind of hung their head in shame. And they're like, no, look, like we can't normally see this. And so it's all about taking little bits of telemetry, flipping it in new and interesting ways, and then using that to tell really interesting and compelling stories. Right now, sims kind of are like janky, and people are just using them for compliance. And while that's better than nothing, it really is a missed opportunity.
So,
Couldn't agree more.
Mick, why don't you show us some awesome stuff and dazzle us?
Sure. Before I dazzle you, though, I got to do a shameless plug. So we're teaching this class. It's in rotation. It's a newer class, but hey, shameless plug, Seth Meisner, another friend of the show, and I are going to be doing a co-teach in New Orleans. That's a one-time only event, folks, and it should be a hoot. This is also on demand. So now that I've done the requisite stuff, please don't hurt me, SANS. I hope you're happy. I'm going to show you some of the stuff that you can do with Kibana and Elk.
And so this class is recently on demand? Is that the kind of breaking news?
Just got released on demand. I think it was within the last week or two even. So if you can't, for whatever reason, get to one of the training events, you absolutely can come online and do it at your leisure.
Awesome.
So what I'm actually going to share with you is a really cool lab that it conceptually is so simple, but what you can do with it is dynamite. One of the things that you can do is actually turn normal telemetry into some really powerful detection tools. And in this case, what we've got here is a series of dashboards. And Kibana allows you to make these really gorgeous, easy-to-use dashboards that, quite frankly, helps you sell your security program to upper management. And that's needed because, every SIM or every SOC has a pew-pew map, and you need to build those to get that upper-level support. And what we're showing you here are a couple different dashboards that are quite interesting.
Hey, Mick.
Yeah.
I can only see your beautiful face, my friend.
You can only see my beautiful face.
I cannot see any beautiful dashboards. I mean, it's a toss-up between the two. But
there it is.
Look
there
at that.
it is.
Look how fast he made a beautiful dashboard appear. That's amazing.
Now
Wow.
it's a beautiful dashboard.
And now it's not so much of a toss-up. I like the dashboard.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Zing!
So dashboards in Kibana are made up of visualizations. And so the way you do this is you just make a query using a query language that is the syntax is very repeatable, and once you get a little bit of seat time with it, it becomes very simple to play with. And you can do things like consume, like what we've done is consumed bro logs. Now, I'm not going to spend much time talking about how to put bro into the SIM, other than to say there are plenty of good resources on how to have NetFlow or bro being placed into into your Elk instance. But once you have something like this, even bro or NetFlow data that shows people who are connecting to different time services can be interesting. For instance, in this environment, the ntp.ubuntu.com is the official time server that everybody should be syncing with. And if people are syncing to the time.windows.com, well, that means you've got either a machine that's misconfigured, or even more scary, you have a machine that is not configured appropriately, And it could be maybe it's somebody brought in their own home system and it's a rogue device on your network. So doing something as very simple as seeing NTP traffic can allow you to help thin down the crowd of who's doing what. But there's more. So what we can do is we can play around with this asset dashboard. And one of the things that we love to do is we show you how to consume different types of log sources. And you can do things like consuming a DHCP log, which can be a very powerful resource. We also have a good section on how you can consume vulnerability scan logs. And we actually consume Nessus XML reports. And you can see the different vulnerabilities in your environment and make some really cool charts based off of that. Now, what's even neater, though, in my opinion, is you can also flip that. And instead of just using it for vulnerabilities, you can actually use this as a way to detect whether or not a system has been scanned. And what we've done here is we've got this query. The plugin ID is the plugin that we use to consume those logs, and each host and the IP that's affiliated with that is available, and then we have a count of one or more indicating that it has been successfully scanned via a credentialed scan. If a host is on, say, our DHCP log and is not on our credentialed scan list, we've got a problem because we've got a host that isn't accepting our login for our credentialed scanner, and we can start doing some analysis. And what you can do, if you actually true up this credentialed scan list, you can see that these are very IT company-sounding host names, right? You bump this against that, and you very quickly see Gamer17 and Death Star. These guys stick out like sore thumbs, and now you can do some investigation based off of that if you so choose. And that's
Nick,
all.
I love that because that's like it's so simple. Like, why didn't I think of that kind of thing for shoring up your asset inventory?
Believe me, when I was going through this class the first time, so Justin Henderson's the guy who wrote it, and he asked me to be an early reviewer, and it was like every couple pages I was like, yeah, totally should have thought of that. That makes a whole lot of sense. And it was really embarrassing. Is like you can start doing things like even like things that I used to do as part of incident response, you can actually front load that and have it done in the SIM. For instance, the whole DHCP logs, you can use that as a early indicator. So when you see the DHCP request come in, you're also going to see the MAC address that's asking for that IP address.
Uh-huh.
You can quickly do an enrichment or a bit off of that where you say, hey, does this MAC address even fit in my asset inventory? And if not, then we can start sending out the goon squad. And what blows my mind away is that this scales up so beautifully. So you can have an incredibly large enterprise, and as long as you have a list of what MAC addresses you're expecting, you'd be able to get that. And what's even sadder is one of the early demo runs of the class, we had a student that challenged Justin and said, hey, I'm in a huge company. I've got over 150,000 desktops, and people are bringing their own systems in. Like, how can I be expected to have a asset inventory of what MAC addresses are in my environment? And he goes, oh, cool. Like, watch this. And he did a query where we were consuming the switch logs, and he just started pulling out the MAC addresses live, like right then and there, and it was really awesome. So
yeah, it seems to me, it seems like something that not enough people do. That there's great, and I don't want to use this word, visibility that can be gained, but
I think that's the right word.
I think people go buy a lot of products and do a lot of elaborate things and spend a lot of money when if you were just really, what I hear you saying, make it, you use some open source tools and you look at your NTP logs, your DNS logs, your DHCP logs, and your DNS logs, like even if you just focus on those 4 sources, you could solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, and what's really weird about this particular class is one of the things, as you know, when a SANS instructor starts learning a class, they somewhat haze them by making them teach a trickier spot of the class. And when they threw the courseware at me, I was kind of flipping through, and I was like, well, where's the tough part? Like, these are all really like tactically easy-ish things to do. There's just a ton of them. And I was like, I don't get it. Like, what's the tough one to do? And they were like, well, that's kind of the point. There's just dozens and dozens of little things that if you do, your environment becomes one gigantic sensor grid. There's one module that I'll actually be teaching about this week, where we talk about how you can put host-based firewalls and use those, not even in blocking mode, but just in logging mode, and you can use that to detect lateral movement real time.
That's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's just baller. It's a really, really cool class, lots of lab, and like you said, to your point, it's not that any one of these things is technically challenging. It might be a little difficult given the scale of an environment, but it's now that we've got technologies like Elk or Graylog or other big log parsers, there's really no more excuses. We now, as InfoSec professionals, as defenders, need to really up our monitoring. And when we say we watch the wall, we really have to start doing that.
Awesome.
Oof. Yeah, Mick, I think I'm going to talk to you offline about some of this stuff. I've got an idea for a talk coming up to some management-y types, and I think this will fit in real well with with the quote theme, so to speak.
Okay. Yeah. No. One thing I will tell you this. I really like about where things are going with InfoSec is that like DevOps and some of the other things have really pushed us to making our technologies more approachable to people, because if you think about how we used to do incident response and things, even prior to SIMs, we would, oh, hey, something's happening. Let's fire up our awk, copy paste this awk nastiness that the Unix Graybeard gave to me, and now I can find what's going on.
And now you have 2 problems.
Yeah, well,
you have the incident, and you solved a problem with awk.
Yeah.
Well, no, he didn't use Perl.
Clearly, the Graybeard wasn't that gray, or that beard.
Whoa.
No, you start to accumulate problems when you get sed, awk, and tr, and
God.
a lot of other utilities.
Cut.
Call,
Cut's always like, I get sed and awk. I can't make any more progress. So then there's just like 3 cut commands piped to each other at the end.
Sed, awk, grep, cut, tr, and split.
Yeah, split. Yeah. Yes.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And
you've got
unique has to be thrown in there too. Unique. That's a good one.
Yep.
Yeah, unique and maybe a little sort as well.
And sort, unique and sort. Yep, you're absolutely right.
Unique.
If you can't solve it with those, it's broken.
That's right.
It can't be solved.
That's the whole point of this. That's the whole point of this. You don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, you don't have to go down that rat hole. But I think Mick has a nice point. When you build the Elk stack, it's really all those commands that us old, like Unix, Linux, Graybeard. My beard's not really there, or it is gray. If it were there, it would be gray. That we said, oh, I have a problem or an indicator. Let me go pull more information about it. We'd string together, a bunch of commands, or God forbid, we use Perl to go do it. And then now we can have an Elk stack, and a lot of those same kind of filters are really much easier to run.
Or you go take Sec 573 with Mark Baggett
with Python
or Joff and solve the problem.
Or Joff. Hey.
Yeah, I just said Joff or Joff or Joff.
Yeah.
We actually use some of Baggett's Python foo in the class of 555. We use freak.py, which allows you to do frequency analysis to determine if domain names are being programmatically generated, and it is a really cool thing. I don't know. All I can say is it's a really good time to be a geek. We're having better tools. I came up through the awk, said, cut, call, sort, unique type things, and it's really nice. We're going to a point where we now have cars as opposed to horseless carriage or horse and buggy type stuff.
Well, I think those bash tools though I think were just a small part of it. Like it was like the wheel, right? And maybe we had an axle and maybe we had a steering wheel, but it really wasn't all put together.
That's a good way of putting it, actually.
I've got to drop in a comment, and as a pen tester, I've noticed this more and more. What strikes me is the blue team game is massively improved over the last couple of years. I mean, really massively improved. And it's a good thing, right? We wanted that. We wanted, for so long, especially in our industry, you'd go to a con and it was all red, attack, attack, attack. And to see the balance start to shift, I think is a really, really good thing, because that's where the money is. Let's face it. I mean, it's about us giving good advice to the customers on a defense side, ultimately, to actually win as a security industry.
Yeah, it really weirded me out at DerbyCon 1 when I was talking. I think I might have been one of only 2 or 3 blue talks, and all the others were red. And, don't get me wrong. Like, when I do pen testing, that's fun. I really do enjoy it. The problem is that we can't all be pen testers. And quite frankly, there's more of a need for blue team. So for those of you who are watching and want a job that, pays relatively well and, doesn't require you to be outside ever. We're never allowed outside. Take a look at being a blue teamer. It's not a bad way to make a living.
Well, the other thing, Mick, though, I think that's really important is because of the technology advances, because of what we're all doing together, blue team is becoming way more sexy than it used to be. I mean, it used to be, in my opinion, that blue teamers felt drowned, right? They felt like there was no way to climb the mountain. But there is ways now, right? We've got these awesome things, just what you're talking about in the class, that allow us to actually get some defense at scale, which is really making a difference.
Oh yeah, no, I honestly, there were times that I would be working with peers when we were defending large enterprises, and we'd be like, wow, it'd be really cool if there were some way that we could issue a command that would allow us to do memory capture at scale, and we just kind of sat there and we were like, well, that's just too damn bad. That just can't be done. And it was horrible. So to your point, we're having better tooling, which allows us to ask better questions, do deeper analysis, and finally understand our network in a way that allows us to have a meaningful chance at defending against the real attacks that are happening.
Mick, thank you so much for appearing on Paul Security Weekly.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
I know you're at a SANS conference.
Yes.
You may or may not have eaten dinner and such, and you got a long day ahead of you tomorrow, so we'll let you go. Thank you very much. It was awesome. I'm excited about 555, right? Did I get that number right? I get my SANS numbers confused.
Yes, sir.
555.
Yep.
Everyone should take it.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. I had a hoot. Take care.
Thanks, Mick. With that, we're going to take a short break, come back, talk about the security news for this week.